Continuing to read Candace Fleming's Ben Franklin's In My Bathroom, starting on chapter 7, page 91. We headed toward home, Ben poking his nose everywhere like a hound dog on a scent. Cars, bicycles, sprinklers, stoplights, parking meters, skateboards, basketball hoops, street lamps, trash cans, motorcycles, street signs, lawnmowers, a fire hydrant, a labradoodle sniffing the fire hydrant, swing sets, barbecue grills, Bermuda grass. Across Tremont Street, two girls pointed at him and laughed. A passing car slowed and honked. A man carrying a grocery bag stared. "Can we hurry it along?" I asked. "Haste makes waste," said Ben. We turned a corner. Rolling Hills Elementary came into view. "Is this where you attend school, lad?" asked Ben. "We both go here," Olivia butted in. "I'm going into second grade." "You both go? Boys and girls together?" Ben raised his eyebrows. "In my day, only boys attended school. Girls are taught at home." Olive made a face. "That stinks." "I am curious," Ben went on. "Do boys and girls learn the same subjects? Latin, geography, diction?" "Math, science, reading," I said, "and social studies." "Swimming," added Olive. "That's day camp, not school," I corrected her. "So what? I'm learning it, aren't I?" She turned to Ben. "Someday I'm going to be as good a swimmer as Mermaid Princess Aquamarina." "Swimming lessons!" exclaimed Ben. "Imagine that." We crossed Caton Avenue. "I've long advocated the benefits of swimming," Ben went on, "although back home the activity is considered dangerous and unsanitary. Few people know how to swim, but I love it. I once even considered starting my own swimming school." "You swim?" I asked. Ben didn't exactly look like an athlete. "Miles at a time," he replied. "I taught myself as a boy from a book called The Art of Swimming. Besides the basic strokes, I learned a number of tricks," he smiled, "and I invented a few of my own." As he continued to talk, pictures were starting to pop up in my mind. My father made and sold soap and candles on Hanover Street in the city of Boston. I, too, worked at the shop. It was a hot and stinking business. Is it any wonder I was forever running away, pulling off? Stripping down and splashing into Mill Pond where I could? Swim and observe? Swim and do tricks? Swim and think? I did my best pondering in the water. One day I pondered ducks. Webbed feet! How efficient they move the bird through the water. Would I move that efficiently if I had webbed feet? Let the experiment be made. My first attempts were not very successful, but I did not feel discouraged. Energy and persistence conquer all things. Ta-da! Splash! They worked for a while. My wrists grew sore and my arms ached. What I needed was 2 pairs of paddles. Splash! They worked for a while, but soon my wrists and ankles ached. If not entirely successful, the experiment had been made, and I learned that my invention, let us call them swim fins, did increase speed, if rather uncomfortably. "You know what we should do?" cried Olive when Ben finished. "Oh, geez, no way. She better not say it. Let's go swimming." She said it, and then she took off down the sidewalk. Chapter 8. The 3 of us stood outside the tall fence that surrounded the community pool. From the other side came the sounds of splashing and laughter and the sharp tweet of the lifeguards' whistles. Ben peeked over the chain links. "A pond made especially for swimming? What an extraordinary idea," he exclaimed. "It's called a swimming pool," said Olive. "We are not going in," I said. "We are absolutely not swimming." I pointed at Ben. Time travel, return trip, famous dead guy. Does any of that ring a bell? But I want to swim with Ben, she whined. I tried a different argument. You're not wearing a bathing suit. Sure I am, see? Olive lifted her t-shirt to reveal her sparkly purple one-piece underneath. Mermaids always wear their bathing suits. What a coincidence, said Ben. So do I. During hot summer months, I prefer to darn my bathing garment rather than underclothes. One never knows, after all, when one may be struck with the urge to strip off one's clothing and plunge into the water. Olive nodded. I know, right? One must be prepared for every opportunity, said Ben. Totally, agreed Olive. Oh, brother. Olive went around to the entrance. We followed. The bored teenager at the front desk didn't bother to look up for her phone. Pass. Right here, said Olive. She pulled out her back pocket. Olive and Nolan Stansbury and one guest. I guess mermaids always carry their pool passes, too. Still ogling her phone, the teenager waved us in. Meet you on the other side, said Olive as she headed into the girls' locker room. Ben and I went into the boys'. Maybe, I hoped, without his goofy colonial clothes, no one would recognize him. Maybe he'd look like any other old guy in a bathing suit. Oh, this is a jolly lark, said Ben as he kicked off his buckled shoes and peeled off his knee-high stockings. I wrinkled my nose. Here's a fact you won't find in the history books. Benjamin Franklin had stinky feet. Oh, and knobbly knees. He stripped down to his bathing garment. My mouth flew open. His trunks, if you could call them, had flowers on them. Big red flowers. And that wasn't the worst part. They reached to his knees and were trimmed in lace. Inch-wide, ruffly lace. It made his suit look like a pair of ladies' long underwear. Ben saw me staring. My wife Deborah sewed this to my exact specifications, he said, patting his pot belly. I am pleased to say it's waterproof and seam tight. Boy, I'm glad to hear that, I said. We padded out to the pool area. Everyone was there. And when I said everyone, I mean everyone. About 1 million kids from the school were splashing, diving, and floating around in inflatable rings. Brian Goladay and a couple of other guys from my class were goofing around by the shower, snapping towels at each other and basically acting like dorks. When they saw Ben, they stopped. One of the guys pointed. They all started laughing. Hey, Stanbury, C.J. McCabe called from the concession line. What's the matter? You forget to wear your tablecloth? The two girls standing behind him started to giggle. This is all your fault, I said to Olive, who had emerged from the locker room. They're just meanies. She dropped her pile of clothes next to Ben's on a lounge chair. All eyes were on Ben as he and Olive headed for the water. Oblivious to the pointing and staring, he stood at the pool's edge. He did a series of knee bends. Down, then up, with great gusts of breath and lots of creaking joints. For the blood, Nolan, he shouted to where I sat, hunched on the lounge chair, and for the muscles. I could feel my reputation plunging toward geekdom with every deep knee bend. Behind me, the guys snickered. Next, Ben windmilled his arms above his head. Then he flapped them behind his back and in front of his belly. It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Bloomer Man, hooted CJ. The girls giggled again. Ben waded into the deep water and dove. From where I sat, all I could see were bobbing heads and flapping arms of the other swimmers. Then, Ben burst from the water like a dolphin. He streaked up until almost all of his body was out of the water. For a single second, he seemed to hang there before curving gracefully to his right and slipping back below the surface without even the tiniest splash. Ooh, he's a mermaid, squealed Olive. Whoa, cried CJ. Did you see that? Kids began moving away from the center of the pool, giving Ben room. A moment later, his legs rose out of the water, just his legs. They scissors, toes pointed. Then they disappeared to be replaced by Ben's head and chest. He spiraled, his arms held gracefully above his head. Everyone moved to the sides of the pool to watch. It was like a scene from one of those old black and white movies where some couple starts whirling around the dance floor and everyone else clears out of the way to stare and cheer. With the pool to himself, Ben went crazy. He did upside-down splits and corkscrew twists. He spun on his back in tight circles and did leg lifts, backward rolls, handstands, and somersaults. Finally, he swam over to where Olive sat with her feet dangling in the water. "Is that mermaid swimming?" asked Olive. "Stunt swimming," said Ben. "It's quite invigorating and exceedingly helpful. In just minutes, one can work on all one's muscles. Will you teach me?" asked Olive. "It would be my pleasure," said Ben. "And me?" asked David Nichols, who was sitting next to her. "And me too," said his friend Jeter Smolensky. "The more the merrier," said Ben. They gathered in the shallow end of the pool. "We shall begin by learning to scull and flutter," said Ben. Within minutes, he had them spinning on their backs while floating. "I want to learn that," cried CJ. He jumped in and joined Ben's group. So did Brian and the other guys from my class, as well as the girl from the concession stand and 2 lifeguards. Even a group of grown-ups got up off their towels and waded in. This was sort of amazing, considering most parents only came to the pool to chat with other parents and catch up on their reading. Until that day, I'd never seen one put more than his or her foot in the pool, and now there they were, learning to scull and flutter, spiral and scissor. Soon both kids and grown-ups were floating in circle formations. Spreading their arms wide, they held each other's hands. Then they stuck their left legs into the circle's middle so their toes touched. On Ben's count, they gracefully lifted their legs in the air. There they are working out. "Like a blossoming flower," instructed Ben. "That's it. Lovely, lovely." Next, they rested their left ears against their left shoulders and glided all together to their left. They switched and they glided all together to their right. They switched again left. They switched again right. "By Poseidon's blessing, this is enchanting indeed," cried Ben. They rose and dove. They learned pinwheels, paddle kicks, pliés, and flips. "Cross your ankles thusly," coached Ben. "Swivel your torsos." Arms and legs waved. Tummies and torsos waggled. It looked like some kind of crazy water ballet. Suddenly, Ben dove. Second later, he had risen from the water, slowly and dramatically. Above his head, he held a grinning Olive. "All hail, Princess Aquamarina," she squealed. Then she leaped, spun, and splashed back into the water. Ben laughed and clapped. "Bravo, young Olive." Seeing them together made me think about all the fun Dad and I used to have. Maybe not swimming, but other stuff, like shooting baskets in the driveway and go-karting at Speed Zone. "Hey, Nolan, did you see me?" cried Olive. She swam over to the edge near my lounge chair. "Did you see me be a mermaid? I'm a real mermaid." I wanted to be happy for her, but the bats were back. I scowled. "I saw it. So what?" "Ooh, meet Krabby Pants. Mr. Krabby Pants," she drawled. "You should jump in, Nolan. Every ocean needs crabs." "You're hilarious." I looked around. "Where's Ben? I want to get out of here." Olive pointed. The lesson had broken up, and Ben was out of the pool. But he was still hanging around with a couple of moms who were complimenting him on his teaching abilities and his charming way with the children. Mrs. De La Cruz wrapped a towel around his dripping shoulders. "We wouldn't want you to catch cold now, would we?" Another lady pecked him on the cheek. "You're a dear, sweet man." "Ooh la la," squealed Olive. Then she started chanting. Ben and some of the other mothers swimming in the sea. Kissing. "Cut it out," I grumbled. Ben didn't seem to mind, though. Instead, he kissed each of their hands. "Adieu, dear ladies. Smooch, smooch, smooch." Then he strutted over to us. "The ladies like you," said Olive. "It's a gift," Ben replied. "Time to go," I said. It wasn't very polite, but that's the kind of thing you say when you're the only crab in the sea. We will continue reading Ben Franklin's In My Bathroom by Candace Fleming.